Okay then. Must be Monday. You're too quiet. Friday would be rambunctious. Anyway, so good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, May 13th, 2019. The time is exactly 9 a.m. We're continuing our fiscal year 2020 budget review, calling this meeting to order. Attending are Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Do we have any changes to the agenda? I don't hear of any, so our fiscal 2020 budget review today is the Assessor. This is a discussion. Dina, take it away.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be talking about the Assessor's budget. This is his meeting and he'll be presenting to you. What I have up on the screen now is your current snapshot of your preliminary summary. Because of the work you did on Friday, you've reduced your deficit to $11,600,000 approximately. Good job. Wanted to start the meeting off in a positive direction, so congratulations. Things are moving along well. So before I kick it off to the assessor, Michelle put together a chart just to give you an overview of the assessor's budget, and I will let her speak to that.
So just really quick, this is looking at the percent of change over the fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 20. It's a percentage change. And you can see it's broken out by the different org sets that belong to the assessor. And so just based on those different org sets, you can see that certain items increased significantly over last year, whereas some went down.
And there's also a paper copy of that if you want to look at it later, but we wanted to provide a little graphical background before we kick it off to the assessor. So without any further ado, Rich, Joe, you're on.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. Before I get started with the budget part of this, I'd like to introduce my management team that I have here, mainly because I know there's at least one in here that have not met the Commissioners, and I'd like for you to at least meet the managers of the Assessor's Office. Right here I have Jeff Hurt. He's our newest, one of our newest managers. He's the Specialized Appraisal Manager. I have Holly Thompson. She's our DMV manager. Reba, she's our administrative manager. I've got Darren Career, a residential appraisal manager. Back here I have Rod Jones. He's the county surveyor. Back here I have Betty Costas. She is our land records manager. And Joe Johns, our chief deputy assessor. So I'd like, just wanted to introduce them to you.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. So who wants to go? Rich?
Yeah, okay. This is my first time presenting everything in front of the board, so hopefully I'll do it justice. If not, it's everybody else's fault.
I'm glad you got that squared away up front.
You'll see at the very first line that you're going to see a slight increase in the printing cost, and that is the printing of our assessment notices. That's an actual cost increase that we had estimated from Masters Touch, who is our printing company provider, and they provided us an estimate for 2020, and it was slightly above what our current costs are. So I think it was from 21,000 up to 22,000. So some change there.
Do you want us to ask you questions underneath the org set as you go, or do you want to do a whole overview, then get questions later?
You can ask us questions now. That would be fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Dean, if you want to open that up. So under line 9, the 7005, can you talk about that
Yeah.
for a little bit?
Seasonal, temporary seasonal.
Okay. And that's is that reduced for 2019?
Yep.
Our seasonal help is the individual that we have had in the past that helps with the circuit breaker program.
Yes?
Those are the person that goes out and does the shut-ins. So that is our seasonal temporary help. This last year, we actually changed the person. It was George Evian, and George retired, and so Jan Lindquist, our prior administrative manager, took the task this year. And I think we're going to try a little different approach this next year in 2020, and actually have some of our admin staff go out and do the shut-ins. And so there's I believe a reduction in that that shows that.
Okay, so I guess what I'm seeing up there is 6,200, now it's 19,000. So that looks like a $12,000 increase.
You've been at 6,200 for several years, Rich.
Right, and we don't mess with those
You've
items.
actually spent below your budget for
Yeah.
several
Yeah.
years.
I
I'm
mean-
not sure where
You
that
think
number
maybe
is.
it's an error?
It could be, I can look that up offline, but the
Got me
temp
there.
seasonal,
Okay.
the temp seasonal pool, in the system was pulled through at this amount.
Yeah, that would be an error, Dina, because
Okay,
we weren't asking for that.
okay,
Okay, then if we keep it at the 6,240?
Perfect. Yeah, and it will be, that would be absolute max that we would need for that town.
okay.
No?
Okay.
So we'll adjust that
Oh, yeah.
position
Yeah,
budget.
please,
Okay.
thank you.
Errors happen.
So, if you want me to
Keep going, yeah.
Going.
okay, yeah, absolutely.
on line 21, 7925 advertisements. That's not something you guys did last year, so I'm just curious.
Like Reba, can you that real quick?
Well, we are, that's the advertising website video. We wanted to include that. I think it was in our narrative.
Okay.
It's a video that goes on the county website, describes the appraisal process, what the assessor's office does. It's an educational tool
Okay,
Okay.
for the public. So as we're trying to update the website and stuff to make it more informative, this is a program that would show them how to do that.
Great.
that actually sounds valuable.
It really does a really good job explaining Idaho and how the assessor works in Idaho. And it's, there's a company that's already done this for other counties, and so we'd like to participate in that and include that onto our website. So.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
keep going.
And then travel. It's pretty much the same. I'm just curious, is there any place that can be cut, or is that kind of all mandatory travel?
Well, the statutes require that all of the appraisers and mappers keep their certification. That's 32 hours every 2 years. And so we have to basically have in our budget the ability to send half of our staff every
Sure.
year for educational purposes, so, and most of the time we send them to Boise because they offer 2 one-week-long
Right.
courses, one in the winter, one in the summer. And we've tried to offset that some with online training, okay, so we're not spending as much. And I think you can see over the past several years, we've had a good majority of our staff actually doing more online. So then we give them that week that we would normally send them to class down in Boise or to or summer school or winter school, and they can take that week and do it online at their desk, which saves the county a bunch of money.
Okay.
But we always budget for half of our staff going down because of that requirement.
Sure.
Or not the entire staff, but the appraisal
Good.
staff.
You're
Good
good.
enough.
Answers my question. Thank you.
Okay.
And that's all the questions I have for that work set.
Okay. Anything, Bill?
No.
I'm fine with that too. Let's move on. Okay, so this is surveyor.
Okay, I'll let Rod talk a little bit about some of his needs as the county surveyor, just to kind of give you a little background. You know, the county surveyor is the county surveyor, not the assessor surveyor. The surveyor works, again, he's a department of one, but we supply the administration for this county surveyor. So when you see his request, you'll see that he has a request for a vehicle. It's because he is a department of one, and so I'll let him address a little bit more of that.
Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, good morning, nice to meet you guys. Well, my budget has pretty much stayed the same over the last 5 years. Seems to work pretty good. In the past, I put notes in there that the equipment's getting dated and that it's gonna need repaired or replacement soon. It's still working to date, but if it does fail, then there'll probably be little to no chance of repairing it just because of the age and it just needs to be replaced. It's typically what I use is a survey grade GPS system. And then I use Total Station, which is a robotic total station that basically allows you to operate the gun remotely and do your work without having to have a second person. So the GPS and the total station has allowed me to remain a department of one and do all my own work, basically. But they are dated. The robot is 18 years old now. I think the GPS system is 13 years old. So it's just trying to get it on the schedule to get it replaced before it ends up not functioning and not being able to get my work done. So,
Go ahead.
Is there any ongoing cost, or this is strictly replacement one for one?
this is one for one.
With regard to the used truck, can we do something via fleet management?
Yeah, actually, I did approach Nick to see if the Parks and Waterways had a vehicle, and I don't believe he had indicated that he did have a vehicle that we could cascade down. I believe that the vehicle that we're currently using, Rod, it's about 180,000 miles on it?
It's 135 or so, and it's a little SUV, a mid-size SUV, which doesn't work well for all the equipment that I carry. I carry a lot of rebar, hammers, other tools, sometimes, long posts and stuff that project clear into the front seat. And plus, there's quite a bit of weight also that I carry, which is that Trailblazer is very well designed to hold that weight.
Is a pickup preferred, or does that expose too much to the elements?
A pickup with a canopy is
With a canopy.
Is what we're really preferring, so, yeah.
Should we flag that then for discussion with fleet management?
Yeah.
Dina, would
Yeah.
you flag that,
Yes.
please?
Yep.
Yeah, let's see what we can do.
Like Rod is saying, he's carrying, pieces of rebar and hammers, and if God forbid, anything happens as far as a rollover or anything like that, those are all projectiles.
No,
Yeah,
pickup
that's a good
is,
point.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't have a
yeah.
problem with that at all. Just where's the pickup coming from is kind of what we're
Yeah,
looking
I
at.
totally get it.
And even
But-
if we have to buy a canopy for it, it's certainly a lot
Right.
less
Yeah.
than 25 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then and Rod, I think you addressed the GPS and robotic.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask
Yeah,
about,
go ahead.
wanted to ask about that, the GPS system and robotic,
Total station.
I understand that thing can die on you.
Can what?
It can die on
die.
you.
Oh, sure,
you know.
sure.
And when it does, can you get one, can you buy one quick, or do you have to wait 6 months for a delivery, or?
They're available.
Because what I'm thinking is,
There's a local dealer, Topcon dealer, that typically has one on hand.
we're working real hard to keep everything down.
In other words, is it off the shelf? Can you buy one off the shelf if it
I
fails?
can, there's a dealer locally here that I'd be buying through, which has them on hand. So if this one was to go down, or say the new one was to
Right.
need repair,
Right.
I could get a loaner from him to fill in the gap while that's being repaired or replaced.
Okay.
And that's what I'm talking about with trying to keep the budget down.
Sure.
If you told me, oh, it takes 6 months to get a new one, I'd go, oh, God, you can't wait 6
No,
months.
no.
But can you wait 48 hours? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So why don't we flag that?
Yeah, and not that you don't need it.
No, 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 the 54,000.
The 54,
Yeah, not that you don't need it, just that you can get
There
it.
you go.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Right, if it was to break,
Yeah,
and to send it off to repair would be a lengthy
right. That's a
process.
Sure.
And I could probably get
A loaner.
a loaner in the meantime, but that would be contingent on if they could,
Had
if
one
they could fix it.
available.
Go ahead. I'm
Do
sorry.
we anticipate this breaking down in 2020? If we do anticipate needing it in 2020, we would have to have it in budget.
Yeah.
If it's foreseen, if it's a foreseen cost legally, we have to.
Well, and what we can do is make the assumption that maybe we can get halfway through 2020 and then budget 50% instead of the full 100. But we can come back to
Very
that.
good.
I just have a question. So the revenue is going up, it appears, projected revenue, in that same org
In
set.
the org set, mhm.
So, where do those funds go? Just general fund, or are they restricted in any way?
I believe they go right to the general fund.
Okay,
Correct?
so,
Yeah.
so if that's a 22,000 increase, then the GPS system and all that
There you
would
go.
really only be 32,000 out of general fund, so, just something to think about,
Mhm.
when we go to
Mhm.
round 2.
Yeah. That's true, if we can provide the vehicle and then budget for 50% of the GPS, you almost come out flat.
Do you guys,
Good.
would you like to tell them what the, what we
The-
charge for? What
the
you charge for?
increase in the revenue.
Yeah,
That is due to plat review fees. When subdivisions come in, then we review them. There's a set fee for that review. And there's been so much development activity in the recent years
Mhm.
that the number's kind of high right now. We're looking at, I'm reviewing, over 120 plats a year. That's county and city plats, at $500 to $1,000 a piece. And that's been pretty consistent over the last few years, so that's kind of why it's good to put this on the table now, versus in a slower time.
Rod, just to help educate us here, do you actually survey every plat, every subdivision request, or do you just review it?
I review it.
You review it, okay.
The surveying I do is for the different departments, for parks and waterways, for the airport, for buildings and grounds. They all have survey needs, and I take care of those. I also tie in controlling corners throughout the county. That is the basis for our GIS system. All the mapping is based on. We use tied corner positions plus record information in order to develop
I've
the
used the
base
system,
mapping
it's
for
a,
the
it's a
county.
good system. When was the last time those fees were reviewed or increased?
We adjusted them last year, and it wasn't really an increase. It was, I did an analysis of the prior year to see how much time we're actually spending on it, and made an adjustment. I actually simplified the fee structure to $500 plus $15 a lot for any plat, county, city, minor, major, and it just simplified the process, and it kept the fees almost identical to what they were. It was kind of a stepped system before, and there was no need for it, so.
Are those similar and competitive with other counties?
No, I mean, most counties are higher, considerably.
So the revenues are higher.
Well, their fees are higher.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, I justified, I took a year and put time spent on it with a wage, a fair market wage to that time spent on each of these, and did an analysis, and it came out that we were right about where we should have been, but we're still lower than other counties.
and in that analysis, did you just use simply the hourly wage or a loaded labor rate?
Loaded labor rate. So if you were to farm out the same work that we're doing in-house to a engineering company, that's kind of what the fees are based on.
Interesting.
One of the things that Kootenai
Yes, good.
has is that
Answers.
we do have a surveyor. Most of the other counties, probably with a couple exceptions, do not.
Contract.
They contract it.
Okay.
So it could be one of the reasons why our fee is structured the way it is.
Good.
What's interesting is if we were a private entity, given the rising demand for service, you'd be raising prices.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Should I stop there?
Yeah.
I'm just-
We got state law.
Yeah, that's right, we have to play within statute.
Yep.
So essentially, you're working on a break-even basis, Rod? In other words, what we charge equals our cost, or your cost, as the case may be.
Yes, the revenues pretty much offset my
Mhm.
costs.
Okay,
Good.
fair enough. Thank you. Any more questions on that work set?
No?
So we flagged a couple of items,
Mhm.
okay? And next would be DMV, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Holly?
I'm requesting 3 new title clerks, because the county is growing, and that means more and more people with their cars, their toys, boats, they're all coming to the office. And it just, because we have so many people in front of us, a lot of the stuff that needs to get done in the back is not getting done, because I'm trying to take care of the people in front of us. And
Since we get some of the phone calls here, you might get a sympathetic.
yeah, it's because during the lunch hours, I'm pulling the person that I usually have sitting there answering the phone out onto the counter to deal with the people that are there, because we go half staff for lunches. And so that's 2 hours that I absolutely do not have someone sitting in there answering the phone, which is why you guys get them. And then they get transferred down to my office, and then I eventually get them after the lunch hours.
Oh, goodness, okay.
Do you have room for these 3?
Yeah, because we have the 2 offices, and I've got 7 working stations in each, but I have somebody pulled off doing the mail or answering the phones, so there's always empty spaces. So, yeah, between the 2 offices, I can definitely use and have room for them.
One of the things about DMV is that it's pretty much a self-funded department. We charge an admin fee. In fact, we just had to have a slight increase in the mailing part of the admin fee, which you guys did for us.
Right.
Mhm.
So the 3 employees they will be funded in the admin fees that we do charge. So even though we still have to request the 3 individuals, through the process, if you look at the return that we give to the general fund, that it does pay for itself. But we do see a need. We see that the QLIS program has been functioning real well in scheduling and moving people through the line. One of the things that we do see is that we have the QLIS system basically turning off at 4:45, 15 minutes before 5, meaning that the queue is full, but we still have individuals that come in at 5 minutes to 5, and if it's a simple registration or a simple process, we can usually get them done. But if they come in with multiples, again, it's either gonna cause us to work some overtime or cause us to ask them to come back during normal business hours again, so.
Could you effectively give better service if you just had maybe 1 or 2 more positions instead of the 3?
In the manpower study that we did do, that with the number of people that are walking in and the amount of registrations and stuff that we're doing actually online and through the mail, the indicator indicated somewhere over 5 persons. So we were asking for 3, but we would take whatever number you would give us.
Sure.
But the actual indicator is over 5 people.
Okay.
To maintain a cohesive staff during lunch,
Sure.
the lunch hours and stuff, so.
So with the 156,000, are you expecting to have that kind of increase in revenue? Because it's projected as 43
precisely.
down below.
Yeah, your overall revenues is increasing by just over 43,000. Which, could that be because of the anticipated increase in fees? In the fee
Yeah.
volume?
Yeah,
Okay.
with
Okay.
the more people moving in,
Mm-hmm.
doing their titles, bid inspections, everything.
So this goes back to your point that it's gonna, these 3 folks, 3 individuals, excuse me, will likely pay for themselves.
Yes.
Yes. Keep
Their
in mind,
statement?
there's also an overtime increase in there too.
Yeah,
Okay.
one of the things that what we've found is that, let's see how they, several years ago, the assessor made the call on, instead of individuals that, say, work 5 or 10 minutes after 5, the call was that the assessor would give them, allow an admin day, okay? So for working overtime, you would get, instead of getting paid for overtime, you'd have an admin day. And that worked out for the entire year, okay? And then it was brought to our attention, we probably shouldn't do that, so we went to strictly overtime. But if you looked in the history, because we weren't paying overtime, our overtime use was non-existent. And now we pay overtime, and so our use of overtime has increased. And so we're asking for an increase in our overtime budget. It was I wouldn't say significantly higher, but in years past it was higher, and then it was cut last year. And it's been very difficult, really telling people, you gotta cut it off at 5.
Right.
Or quarter after 5.
So on 70-10, I don't see an increase of overtime for this year.
Any new asks go into the 7,700 line.
Oh, so okay, gotcha.
So anything you see above 7,700, that's coming in from our current position budgeting.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So this would be current overtime budget has no increase, so the increase is living down here. So this budget, considering there's 3 personnel asks in overtime, the main driver is personnel. This
It's
budget is
right.
pretty flat otherwise.
So Holly, between you and driver licensing, I mean, you're the face of the county, because between the 2 organizations, you're the ones that most people interact with, and more so when they first move into the county. How are you finding sincerely our customer relations from your perspective? I mean, are people frustrated? Are they accommodating?
No, most people are great. You always have the ones that kind
Sure.
of but we just smile and be as pleasant as we can and do whatever we can and get them out. So overall, most people, especially the ones coming from California, they come in, sit there for an hour or 2, and it doesn't even faze them.
Yeah.
The people that are from here, I've been here for 15 minutes, what's going on?
Yes.
So it just depends on where the people are from as to how, but most of our customers are really good.
Okay.
One of the other changes that you see in DMV is we added a cost of shredding. ITD has been going through some changes. You guys probably are aware of some of that. And so one of the programs that they've changed is in the past, whenever we received the title documents, the actual paper documents, from the customer, we would collect all of that information and bundle it together and send it down daily, mail it to ITD down in Boise. Well, they now have a scanner that they've provided to us, and so we scan all those documents. So what we were sending to Boise and then they would shred them, we now keep and we shred them. And it's something that, because there is private information on there, we do want to shred it.
Okay, and that's only $338, right? I mean, that's not,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
yeah, it's not,
Yeah.
not significant in our world right now.
There you go.
Yeah, well, I'm every penny.
Yeah.
That's all right. So if we go to the bottom line again, where are we, just for a quick, the revenue versus expenses, Dina, if you would?
So here's total expenses, mainly just driven from personnel,
Uh-huh.
and then a revenue increase here, based on the new fee structure and just volume.
Okay, so revenue increases from basically 1.15 to 1.19. Right? And expenses,
Expenses are up at the top. They're pretty flat,
you're pretty flat,
except for the personnel asks.
except for the personnel, yeah. And that seems to be somewhat offset. So we're looking at a 3.8% increase. No, that's revenue,
In
excuse me,
revenue.
in revenue.
Which a lot of that just completely depends on the weather.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it snows, then we do snowmobiles and creamer stickers. If it doesn't, we don't. So that's a complete guessing game.
So
Go ahead.
your expense increase is 14.6%, and that is for the overtime and the 3 new tugboats.
Okay. And our revenue's up 3.8%.
Right, and I think too, for onboarding, really, there's pretty minimal onboarding, because the state pays for a lot of that, don't they?
It's $400 is what you have listed.
Yeah, so that's probably just
Pretty.
part of their desk setup with the computers are provided
Yeah,
by the state,
by
aren't
the
they?
state, yes, correct.
Okay.
Next.
Now that was CDA, so moving on to Post Falls?
So the people costs sit in the Coeur d'Alene org set, so this is just OpEx down here.
Okay.
And although it's a 17% increase, it's based on very small numbers, so the overall increase is,
In dollars,
looks like
yeah,
there's a
absolutely, yeah.
security camera is driving most of that,
Yeah, the security
and
camera.
security services.
Yeah, the security camera is to face out towards where our large vehicle inspection is. Because it's not in front of the building, it's to the side of the building, to the east of the building, and so, just for safety's sake, we would like to, have a better quality camera for out there.
Okay.
I don't have anything else
I
there.
think we're okay here?
Mhm.
Bill?
Yeah.
Okay, next org set. Appraisal operations. Residential, is it? Or
This
do
would
you, or do
be,
you mix the two?
this would be all of
All of it,
appraisal,
okay.
yes.
So we've got some personnel, this looks like maybe overtime?
Yeah, I believe it is overtime. Again, it's, with the amount of new development that we're seeing throughout the entire county, we are having a difficult time maintaining, the level of quality and maintaining, just getting the work completed within the time frame that allows us to make the statutory deadlines. And so, one of the options that we've had is, of course, to use overtime. And I believe if we were to look at our overtime right now today, we're almost used to completely up. And that's not even coming into our
Busy season.
Busy
DOEs.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So, we're projecting out, that we probably may need to give some additional overtime for 2020. If if other things in the budget don't go through,
Right.
we're gonna need some overtime.
Okay. Then the regular staff salaries, 7003, there's a $33,000 increase. Is that, Dina, do you know what's driving that?
Was there any mid-year changes?
Did
I think
have.
there was some 720 and
The
some mid-year
720.
changes.
Okay.
Oh, that's a
Okay.
720?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because I know you'd put in some places 720, this one just didn't have it, so I just was
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
Okay,
could make a notation.
and I think there was some parity issues with managers. I think that was a mid-year one too.
That was, but that was in DMV,
Oh, okay,
not in Reno.
all right.
Okay.
okay. That's all I have for that org set.
Now, witness
Well, except for
payments?
travel.
Uh,
Oh, yeah, witness payments, thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have more.
We usually budget for witness payments, and usually what the prior boards have done is they move that into their, another budget set for legal. I don't know exactly what the title of that is, but we've budgeted, what's that?
It's a contingency.
Yeah, it's a contingency use, and we've budgeted for witness fees, legal fees, for 16 years that I'm aware of, 17 years that I'm aware of. And we've had to use them in the past where we have, let's say for an example, that a large resort decided to attest or contest their assessment, we would maybe have to hire an appraiser to give us their opinion of value. And we've actually had to do that in the past. And so that's why we've always budgeted for this amount in
Okay.
our budget, but the prior boards have moved it into a contingency.
Okay.
Have you ever gotten anywhere near the 50?
Yes.
Oh, you have?
I mean, it's been moved to the contingency line, and
And used by other departments.
well, it's there, but we like to think that if we needed it,
Right.
we would be able to request it.
Okay, so is this like more professional services than witness payments? Because witness to me is kind of testifying.
It's both, actually.
Both?
We've actually had
Okay,
district court case where we've had to pay an expert witness who was an appraiser, did the appraisal,
Oh,
just an expert witness.
okay.
got it.
So, yes, it has happened, and so, that's why we've budgeted for it.
Okay,
So we have a district court case going on currently.
Yes, I'm aware.
Which we have outside counsel.
Yes.
And at this point, we don't know if we're gonna have to have, any other fees outside of that counsel. I'm assuming that we probably will, but that generally is council's decision on how that goes at that point.
So if the court decides an independent appraisal is required, you're gonna pay the fee for the appraisal, and then more than likely that appraiser's gonna have to testify.
Expert witness. So
All right.
okay,
back in 2006, I think we went to trial on a residential with, I think we had upwards of $60,000.
It was a high-end property.
I would say.
sure.
Yeah.
I don't think
It's
somebody at 300.
dollars well spent.
Yeah, okay. Did we win?
Well, I like that. I won because we were right around my value anyway.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But they split the baby.
Fair enough.
Okay, so same thing with travel and stuff, keeping up certifications.
Yeah,
on
that's,
this one.
again, what we're trying to do, and, again, most of our travel is to Boise and back, for the residential staff, or the appraisal staff.
Okay. And then if you, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. 8,900.
Yeah, I wasn't quite there yet.
Oh,
I
no, go
wanted to
ahead.
address the vehicle repair because you have in there for 2 used vehicles. So would vehicle repair be less if you got your 2 vehicles?
It's insignificant.
There's still maintenance on a lot of the other ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah. Again, we have applied for used vehicles for multiple years. That's how we update our
Right.
fleet. And in the past, the boards, about every other year, it seems that we get two vehicles that we can upgrade. And in the past, we found some very good, slightly used vehicles. And then in a couple of instances, we've gone through the process of using the state procurement, so we got a couple new ones.
Okay.
And the ones that we're trying to replace, one has 160,000 miles and I think 131 on another.
Okay, so once again, we can tag these for fleet management, and is
Yes.
there any, do these have to be trucks, or these can be
No,
all-wheel drives? or-
All-wheel drives.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and then the new
Okay.
program.
Well, again, what we are requesting is a new program, and this program hooks right into our current valuation tool, ProVal. That's
Yes.
our valuation tool.
Yes.
And this program is called Mobile Assessor. And because of the amount of growth that we're seeing, again, when you see some of the cities say, well, we've got, 1,000 building permits or, 500 building permits, even our own county, when we say, we've done 800 building permits. Well, our department, the assessors department, we have to look at all the building permits, city, county, everything within the county. And I think this, and what we're looking at in our reval for next year is at least 1,500 brand new homes. Now, I'm talking commercial, but just
Right.
1,500 brand new homes is what is the minimum that we're projecting to see because of the subdivisions that are coming online. On top of that, not only do we have to do those inspections, but we also have to maintain our revals. So 20% of the entire county has to be physically inspected every year. The other 80% of the county, we still have to maintain value on. And so our workload is getting to be pretty massive as far as making the statutory deadlines. So what this program does is it allows the appraisers to go out in the field and basically stay out in the field. It uses the cloud technology, it uses cellular service, and so they'll take a tablet out in the field, and it'll have all of the information for all the properties that they're throughout the county, and it uses the technologies. They can draw on the iPad with their finger. It creates and generates the sketch. They can take a photo, and it automatically hooks it to that property, and it's all done with this system, and it comes back and feeds itself to our ProVal system. So instead of touching the file once out in the field, coming back and touching it again and putting the photos on, and then touching it again and doing the sketch, all these touches we do that we currently do, which is kind of doesn't make sense when as many times as we actually have to touch one file to get the end result, which is the value. This system will allow the appraisers to go out in the field. It'll help them set up exactly what they need. It prioritizes their work. It's a pretty slick system. We've seen it demonstrated at the last ProVal conference. In fact, in a discussion with Thomson Reuters here recently, they actually said, this is a really good tool. We highly encourage you to move this direction. So, like I said, it hooks right into our current system. So there'd be, we're not looking for a new valuation tool.
Sounds like a really great tool.
Yes.
Are there, when you use that tool, are there reductions down the line in terms of personnel costs or other things? And have you worked that into the budget?
Yeah. Well, the initial cost here would be to acquire the software, have them come in and train, and then also it's that one-time fee kind of thing. And the ongoing cost is, I want to say it's like $28,000
Manually?
annually for it. But that includes if there's any updates, they just do it automatically, again, through the cloud
Through the
service.
cloud.
So it's nothing that we would have to do.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're confident that we will have a need to come to you for staff, additional staff positions,
Okay,
as growth continues.
Okay.
We're at a time where we can feel the tension of not being able to fulfill our duty, our statutory
I
requirements.
understand.
And so we're looking at the technology as an option to offset, which in the last 10 years, the assessor's office, you look at the employee count 10 years ago, I think we're the only elected official or office in the county that has a staff size less than what we did 10 years ago.
Technology has a lot to do with that.
Technology,
We've
yeah,
done what we
I
can to
understand.
leverage.
But what I'm saying is, does this particular program reduce the need for staff?
It streamlines a lot of the current workflows and processes to where the current staff can be optimized to getting the work done into the work into the
Would
system.
relieve the tension, the pressure on the,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
I understand, and I'm not saying I'm against it.
Yeah.
I'm generally for technology like this, but I wanna know that to buy it is just not because we're getting the latest whiz bang, it's because it really has a functional,
This last Thursday,
benefit.
I walked by one of our commercial appraisers at
Mhm.
or at our printer.
mhm,
Had roughly 200 sheets front and back being printed out because she's going out into the field. She's had to identify what those 200 parcels are in
Sure,
the in the geoeconomic neighborhood. Compile that list, go in, send the print job to the printer, wait for those to print. Then she's gonna take that stack of 200 sheets out with her in the vehicle and identify, is this the sheet for this property?
physical pieces of paper.
Make
Yeah,
notes on that piece
Yeah.
of paper.
yeah.
When she's done that for all 200, she's gonna come back, make sure it's still all organized, bring up each account individually, one sheet at a time, update the characteristics, bring up each photo, one photo at a time that's new, update the photos, et cetera, when.
But this
if
would,
she
this would,
was
this
out
would
in the
make
field
that,
doing
this
it.
would make that not necessary to
Correct.
go through, okay,
Yes.
good,
Correct.
that's,
Okay, so,
I'm good.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Leslie.
Well, I just wanted to clarify. If this is approved, down the line, you shouldn't need as many bodies as you're anticipating needing, because your workload will be streamlined and your hours will be,
Correct.
We're anticipating a much more efficient operation now. It's all relevant relative to growth.
Mhm.
But yes, we don't foresee, we have some projections in line where we're looking at a couple of staff.
If we were to take the example that you just gave us, man, you've been through this enough. There are so many hours that this individual would take to complete the task.
Mhm.
If you purchase this software, what's the change? I know it's hard, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't give me a scientific
Prob-
answer.
Probably from, let's say a residential basis,
Uh-huh.
probably from fielding and inputting, 8 to 10 a day to probably 20 or 30 a day. Because you're not touching it so many
Right.
times, in printing reams of paper so many times. So there's not only cost with the personnel, there's the cost of doing business, all the paper and,
right.
the ink costs.
So you're operating 2 to 3 times faster.
Oh, I believe so. This program, the really cool thing about it is that it was built by an appraiser, okay? That had a past appraiser that had a degree in computer science. So he understands what appraisers need. And so it wasn't built by a computer guy building it for an appraiser. It was an appraiser building
Understood.
it.
Do you-
So
do you know of any other counties that are using this particular program now?
I know of a county right next door to us in Spokane that just is having it implemented right now.
Okay, so, but not somebody with it
Um,
fully on
King
board?
County's using it.
Pardon?
Yeah, I think King County is using it, King County,
Okay.
Washington,
Have
and
you- have you talked to them about
I
it?
have not spoken to them. I've spoken to the owner of the company and watched the demonstration like I said, at the last ProVal conference. I've spoken to him about Spokane County, and when they get up and running, the plan is to go over there and see it work.
So part of the struggle is how many times you're physically touching,
Sure.
right? So the program we're using, the Canvas software, is clunky. between the statutory deadlines of when we can't touch, right now appraisers can actually upload into the system because we're down, we're getting ready to print assessment notices. It doesn't come back online until the close of the BOE in July. So right now appraisers are out in the field writing notes on pieces of paper, stockpiling and coming in. What this technology allows us to do is queue it into a cloud. And they can go out, they can be done with the parcel versus coming in, taking a photo, taking the chip and putting it in the computer and assigning the nomenclature that we have to have in order so it can go into our T drive. That's just one step, and then they come back and keep it all organized and put the notes in. What we're seeing, and I think Joe, what we're talking about is at least 30% gain of where appraisers down the line can actually spend more time analyzing. Where we're finding ourselves all crunched in is we're forced in January and February to get so much analysis done where people are still having to field because they don't have the time frame. We spent close to 80 hours of overtime that wasn't even asked. It was pretty much mandatory that they had to work it because we were that far behind. We lost a critical staff member, one retired, and we lost another one that had intimate knowledge of what they were doing in their areas. And we need this kind of technology to kind of gain some ground here because we're all getting funneled into this time window. Thank God the market is strong, but in order to do quality work, you have to have the time frame to do the analysis, and we find ourselves doing pencil strokes and pictures, and we really need those people that know the business to be in there analyzing what's really going on with 650 neighborhoods in the county, and it's complex. When you take snapshots around the county, it's like, how do you guys figure all this stuff out?
So when the appraiser goes out, what are they going out with? Are you going out with an iPad or are you going out with a laptop?
iPad.
Okay, so the program, is it Apple-based?
The developer prefers an Apple, an iPad, but the system itself,
Is Android.
What do you
Android,
got,
yes.
what do we use?
It feeds into our existing software, into ProVal.
yeah, I've already talked to Grant and,
So we're not gonna have compatibility issues?
no,
No.
Okay.
All right, so Grant's on board.
but I've provided, IT with all that background information, so.
And the developer has already worked with the CAMA system that we utilize. So it's not that they don't have to engineer something new to work with our system, and we get caught short with, well, we didn't consider this, we didn't consider
Question, when is Spokane, expected to, be online?
This year, 2019.
So then you'll get a chance to evaluate it?
I'd like to talk to their new assessor and, see how it's working.
What is it again, ProVal?
Now, ProVal is our current CAMA system. This is
Mhm.
this is Mobile Assessor.
Oh, mobile assess, okay, that is the name, okay. All right, anything else?
No,
Yeah,
not for me.
I probably just would like it flagged, just so we can
Yeah,
revisit
yeah.
it later, and you can give us an update on,
Yeah.
hey, we've been out to Spokane, this is what the good, the bad, the ugly, that kind of thing.
It is
so.
big, but it looks like it may be worth it.
Yeah, the one thing, to be totally transparent on that number too, is I included like one for each appraiser. And if I have to whittle it down to maybe one per team, that can be done. Because the hard cost is the cost of them coming in to implement and training. The soft cost or the other cost would be how many stations we have.
What is it, what is it per station or per, about, you know?
Yeah.
iPads are about 950 each,
Okay,
and we were asking for 17 of them.
okay, that helps. Thank you. Good job.
Okay. Yeah, we'll flag it. Okay. So where are we going now?
Last org set.
Okay. And that's the land records. Sariba, is this you?
That's me.
This would be Betty.
Oh, Betty, okay, I'm sorry.
And I may jump into you.
Okay. Absolutely.
My only question is the 7,700 line, the personal allocation, so is that
It's probably overtime.
overtime?
And the 7,003, is that the 720?
Yep.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, in front of me, okay. Okay.
Otherwise, looks like a lot of cuts.
It's on 8516,
Yes.
we showed 9,400 this last year. I don't know if you've already worked with IT, GIS yet. We are moving that. There's a much, this is the annual license fees associated with the land records mapping software. And for years, Dave Christensen and I have talked about consolidating our portion of those licenses, which we've always maintained separately in this budget, getting them consolidated into a single budget cost center location. So that's where the reduction comes from in that. It's a reduction from this budget, but it's gonna show up as an addition in theirs. Granted, with IT's budget, it doesn't really show up hardly, but, and then the $2,200 expense is an annual fee associated with our ortho imagery, tool that we use. We have numerous licenses available in that. When we acquired the ortho imagery in 2018, it's both traditional top-down view as well as oblique views. And this affords staff to be able to view those through a desktop tool, as well as it's coordinated also with the cities. But that's an annual maintenance beyond 50 licenses.
Are we okay there? So Dina, for the benefit of everyone, including our viewers,
Yes.
what's our summary look like for the assessor?
For the assessor.
Mhm. Once again,
Is that with a correction on the 19,000 or without?
This is without the correction, so there would be a decrease, I believe is it this one?
No, it's the top work
The top one. So there'll actually be a decrease, a net
of
decrease
12.
here. So it would be reduced to this amount? This is the correct amount?
Correct, that is
Yes.
correct.
So about a $6,000 decrease, which will make an overall net decrease.
okay. And that's including the increases in staff and
No,
the software, or no?
you don't have an overall.
Yeah, we don't have an overall yet.
No, so here's overall, if you're looking at the whole thing, if you
Precisely.
reduce this by 6,000,
Go ahead.
so then you're seeing, expenses, revenues. Here, this was an interfund transfer last year, this one as well, so this is just noise.
Got it.
Normally, there wouldn't be any revenue here.
Okay.
So that, in a snapshot, is what we're looking at top line for the assessor. You also have this printed in front of you. We printed the
Yes.
forms associated with these asks, and you can look at them later, they're already
So we
in
could
your
just
book.
add up that column,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so already in your book are all the forms, but we just pulled them today for convenience as well. So if you wanna look at just increase, decrease of expenses,
Uh-huh.
Actually, what's this one here?
it's 5
Oh, this is just revenue.
86,528, and then take out 6,000.
I'm just curious why we're not taking out 12,000. Cause it was 19 minus 6,
Right.
essentially. So there would be an increase.
Okay.
It's the very first
So,
org set. First. Yeah, the 12, 7, 8, 9.
Net increase, everything.
Okay. So $500,000 net increase.
That's about what I'm coming up with.
Offset by some extra revenue.
And for the revenue, we really can't consider the interfund transfer, is that correct?
No,
Correct.
no, those are just a function of the prior year's budget. Moving money around. So that's your true change after you figure and project your revenues.
Is that it, 514?
Yes.
Okay.
And that number includes the adjustments that were experienced through the 720.
Right.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, which is driving a lot of personnel budgets. So if you don't see it in 7,700, chances are it's either a mid-year change or it's 720 effect.
Just going back to the new iPad system with the appraisal app, will that take away some of your equipment that you currently have or kind of replace it? Or now you'll have two things to take out?
We take out pencil and paper.
Yeah.
Okay, so there isn't any electronics that you're using right now?
Correct.
Okay.
And will it also delay increase in staffing?
Absolutely. I can definitely see that happening.
But you haven't really been adding staff to your earlier point, Joe.
No, we've been doing everything we can to maintain staff and
To maintain them.
utilize technology as much as we can.
Okay.
Increasing over time.
Yeah, we have one empty vacant position right now that we're trying to fill, so.
So the big increases here are the 3 employees, the software. There's about 320,000 right there.
3 vehicles, but that's only 75,000.
And they're used vehicles, and
Right.
we haven't looked at fleet,
Right.
Exactly.
the fleet
Yeah.
effect, but still a used vehicle for 25 isn't a lot, and it sounds like their current vehicles have pretty high mileage,
Yeah.
which it would be a
It does.
reliability and repair cost if they were to break down.
I have a question on the software. Can that be leased?
I would have to ask them.
I'm just curious. And it might be prohibitive, I don't know.
Is it a subscription-based type of software? Because it sounds like if it's cloud-based and you're getting upgrades through the web, then that's kind of more of a subscription base. So
think,
you're
yeah.
not buying
Yeah.
it and then having to upgrade it. It sounds like that's part of that annual
Part of the
maintenance
annual.
fee.
Yep,
Right, and then there's 15,000 in hard costs with the
With the
equipment.
equipment.
So it sounds like a licenses and an ongoing upgrade, maintenance kind of thing. And usually with those subscription-based software, just in my experience, if there's a bug or a problem, it gets fixed fairly quickly.
All right then, anything else? Leslie, you okay?
Yeah.
Bill?
Good.
Public comment?
Did you want to talk about the deferred decisions list, or would you like to talk about that after the sheriff this afternoon?
Talk about it now.
You wanna
I
do
don't
it
think
now?
it's very big.
Yeah, let's do it now.
Let's do it now, since we have some time, okay? If anyone needs to leave, you're free to go, I guess.
Is this something that pertains to us?
I don't think so, that we
Not at
have
this
some
point, Rich,
deferred
I don't think.
decisions based on conversations Friday.
Friday.
Okay,
You guys are fine.
all right,
Thank you very much.
Good job.
thank you.
Good team.
Yeah. And I'll make those
Two.
corrections and
Thank you.
send you guys out a new summary.
Thank you very
We'll
much.
talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Hey, good
So we
job.
gonna schedule
Rod,
a sit down?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hey, thanks. Good job.
Talk to you soon, Rich.
Yeah, if you guys wanna have a brief on, our reval, our assessments, we can set up a meeting to do that.
Okay.
Might be worth talking about.
What was it again overall, 17 or 20 for the county?
No, the county, 14, almost 15% overall the county.
And it ranged anywhere from,
It ranged from, these are just the cities, from 9% to 40%.
and the 40%, did you say that was Spirit Lake?
Worley,
Oh, Worley? And who was 9?
Hayden Lake.
Interesting.
But it's all over the board.
It's-
Oh, I can imagine.
650 neighborhoods, it's all over.
It's all over the board. Thanks, guys.
you.
Okay, so we got through that fairly quickly, so I won't belabor this too long, but I did want to follow up with you, and I can send this list out to you. Did some research on some of the points that we flagged for Friday, so I'll just go through very quickly. Right now,
Yeah, let's do that.
I have the date of when the questions were raised, which was Friday. I have the org set that it pertains to. I have a brief description of what the issue is, the amount, and then just some commentary and some other notes out here that I've been developing. So
Okay.
for the first one, we had talked about the annual employee event for $10,000. So that was just marked for further discussion. So again, don't need to make any decisions. I just wanted to walk through these with you.
Okay, go ahead.
So there was a question for community development, and I didn't know if the liaison for community development
That's me.
wanted to talk
It was,
to community development, or do you want me to contact community
The 80
development?
is this the 80 grand?
This is the 61,000, that was a question for exempt salaries. So, that one and the two below had to do with some personnel and a temp and some increases that there were questions about. So, the manager position for community development has been filled.
Yes.
There are 3 open positions right now that are fully funded, pulling in position budgeting. There was 2 mid-year position reclassifications with increases, and that's what's driving this number. You have open positions, you have a filled position, and you have a mid-year increase. So for the temp personnel here, where we had said, well, there was no temp budget listed, I believe that part of that might be paid down here in consultants, because there's some unspent money. There was a large number down in the B budget for consultants. But again, in our position budget system, it's pulling in that temp person at a higher rate than what their current hours are in payroll. So we need to determine with HR and with community development what the right size is for that temp and what they anticipate they're gonna need for 2020. So I can work with them and get that number figured
Yeah,
out,
would
and then
you?
we would get a
Sure.
solid number.
Yeah.
Same thing here, I can get this question answered as far as the consultants aspect of that, and see if there's some crossover there, if that can be reduced, because it may be funding something that's up in a personnel line.
Yep.
So I can get that
We could
all
have
kind of
duplication.
worked out with community development, if you're okay with that.
Yep, please.
We also had talked about this 80,000 in community development, in concert with the larger overall space planning. Did you want this item cut for now, or do you wanna leave it in for now?
Let's cut it.
Okay,
Because even when David was here, and we said, David, we're doing an overall facilities review, he seemed fine with it.
okay,
Yeah, let's cut
then
it.
I will mark that
You guys
as
okay with
cut.
that?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm
Take
gonna mark
that out.
that, and I'll update your summary to reflect that cut. Okay, and then there was some, further discussion asked about, IT. Talked to James, and he was going to look at these a little more closely for you. This, Bomgar remote support
Yes.
and DeepNet dual authentication and automated arrest form was part of the sheriff's IT ask.
Yeah.
Yep. So we can
There
even
was a
talk to
re-
the sheriff today about it.
Okay, and there was also a reduction in Spillman fees that's on this list. Not sure what's driving that, but I have questions out for these IT items to James Martin. This 7,000, also an open question to James Martin on, software, user training costs, if that's associated with the new software ask. So if the software was cut, then those associated training fees would go with it, so that's another question. Let's see, what do we have here? Listing detail of software. So, there was a question about software maintenance. So, the question was posed, we have this big blob of software maintenance, and the question was, well, what does that include in that particular org set? So last year, in the budget system, in the transactional data, this shows what makes up that line item. All of these software costs make up that particular expense line. And this is within this deferred decisions list document, and I can send this to you and you can review it in greater detail at your
Okay.
leisure.
Hey, that'd be great.
Okay. So, health insurance, I just put this on here because there was, pending discussion coming, so that's on here. So there was a question about a new program in juvenile detention. I did not see any new program asked for,
Yes, so
so
we
it
took
might
it
have
out.
just been erroneous, so I
Yeah.
went ahead and crossed that out. And then, let's see, airport.
Oh.
I
I
did
got
not
the sheet.
see temp seasonals, I did not see any temp seasonals in position budgeting. There is a part-time person out there that's funded at a .62 FTE, full-time employee. That's the only part-time person that I see in airport as budgeted in the system. And then these blue items I had highlighted for Bill to check with,
Mhm.
Steve.
the airport.
Steve.
And did you send me a copy of that, or could you?
I can send you this
Good,
copy
thank you.
again.
Good.
So they were just general questions about the nature of these expenses with the airport. I did look up for the airport, the paving costs. Some of this was rolled forward into FY19 from the prior year for projects that were continuing, mainly Phantom Drive. Part of the road maintenance goes in one org set and part goes into the other. So one is FAA related and one is infrastructure related. The airport sewer, the decrease, last year there was some funding through an interfund transfer to fix the lift station. Those costs are less this year because that lift station had some work done, so that was that decrease. And then Bill was gonna follow up on the fair on those top 3 items. Those top 3 items are in this NIF tab in this document, Bill, so that I have a snapshot with some notes here. And these 3 here are the ones that were chosen to be funded. What that would do was it would reduce their original ask from 200,000 down to 155, if those
Okay.
three projects
And if you
were
could send me
funded.
that, they've got a board meeting tomorrow night.
Sure.
That I'll be at, so,
All right, so
That's
it's
good.
all contained within this workbook.
thank you.
Mhm. And then, there was some further discussion on the Historical Society, so I just put that on here. And then snowmobile, I did some research this weekend, and I have some questions out, to snowmobile on exactly what their ask is. Their snapshot document was different than their workbook document, so we're just trying to fetter out what their actual ask is and get that into the system at the right level.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
And then public defender, I'm just waiting on some reclassifications, but for the most part, there would be no financial impact. It would just be moving a few things around. So that is, right now, your deferred decisions. Now, any deferrals or questions, open things you had from today's assessor discussion will also get added to this list.
Okay, cool. Quick question, can you go
Sure.
back to the fair
Sure.
and the breakout for a moment? 1, 3, and 4, if you add those three up, would give us 90,000, is that 80,000?
80,000
But I
here.
think it was indicating 155 in your
155,
summary.
isn't it?
Right, because they're asking for 75,000 and then they're asking for projects on top of that.
I think they're
No,
just
no,
asking
no.
for 200
Yeah.
total.
Yeah.
They were asking for
Okay.
200
It
total.
was
I think
and-
last
initially
year we funded
200.
75,
Right.
75,000,
Yeah.
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 Okay, so 80 total.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's, you know, we just picked
Alright.
up another 75,000 in savings. Yep, there you go.
All right, I can make that change,
Yeah, thank you.
and that makes your big number go down. So that's a good
Okay.
thing.
So between that and David's, right,
Mhm.
we just took out about another 160.
I don't know if I'll be able to have those updates
That's
by
okay.
this afternoon's
But
meeting,
that's
but we will get those documents updated and get your binders taken care of.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I think if once a day, if we're just, or once,
For daily cycle,
yes, of all of our budget meetings, if we just go through that list, I think that's plenty.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think we
yeah.
need to go through it twice
No.
in one day.
No
Yeah.
problem.
Unless you find a way to cut $10 million, then we're happy to
I
visit
have
then
some
we'll-
twice in one
ideas,
day.
then we'll-
but that's not my choice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this afternoon, you have a meeting from 1 to 3 with the sheriff. I've talked to the sheriff, I'm gonna try to help and provide some summarized information for him because his list, like what we've been looking at for the assessor, is very long. He has 3 meetings. This is the first one, and then he has 2 towards the end of the month. So what I'm encouraging him to do is hit the high spots of his asks.
Thank you.
And not go into any great detail, but start the discussion. You would give direction on research of what you would want, and then we would help them put that together so that when they come back for their next meeting, so you would have all the data that you wanted
yeah.
to make your decision.
And that's good advice for us as well, is pick out those glaring items, you know.
Right.
And I don't know if you want Grant from ITDB when we talk about the software, here, when we discuss that, because he's gonna know the detail of the sheriff, you know, what
Sure.
they're asking.
Yeah, probably.
If he's available, that'd
If
be
he's
great.
available,
So,
have him stand by.
Are you anticipating we're going through all org sets then today?
I don't know what his direction's gonna be. I'm basically gonna
How you guys
focus
do.
on any new asks.
Okay.
And we can
Okay.
pull up the summary documents as well and look at those, but I will try to just provide you with something kind of high level,
Yeah.
and then he can speak in greater detail, and then if we wanna bring up the forms online or bring up the summaries online, just whatever we need to help get you through. But I can't imagine that there would be, 2 hours worth of time spent talking about things that we're gonna talk about in 2 other meetings.
Okay.
Okay, so do you think the whole fleet question will get addressed this afternoon?
Is there a fleet management meeting coming up?
I think on the
28th.
28th, right,
Yeah.
so.
So you think that'll
May
come
28th.
later?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, but if you, I know that in a prior meeting, the undersheriff had mentioned that really 15 vehicles was closer to what their ask was. If that was your direction this afternoon, we could cut down to 15 and see what the budgetary impact of that would be. So that's something that you could ask the sheriff this afternoon, and we could make those
And the other
adjustments.
question I have, and this afternoon might be premature, is leasing.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably premature.
Probably premature. I
That-
know,
Yeah, so let's just get a
Let's
I
just
would
get
say
enough
get
if
a
we can.
number and then we
And see
can
if we
go further.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the previous year, you guys did the top three in each selection that they had, each budget line
works.
item, so.
Okay.
So, I thought that worked well last time.
Yeah,
Moved things along pretty
yeah.
fast.
And since capital are the biggest asks, we can bring up the capital summary, and you can just look at the sheriff's asks and just very quickly go through and say, okay, yes, no, prioritize, what are your top three? And
Good point.
that's been done before too, that saves you deliberation later.
Kind of like a fair.
Yeah, right. So it's your call. We have all the supporting information, however you guys wanna play it, we're happy to support.
And so, when we look at the summary, your fiscal 2020 preliminary summary, and we're
Yes.
down to, and I won't consider what we just did.
Right.
Right.
But the 11.64 roughly mil,
Yep,
that takes, I guess I should pose it as a question, not a statement. Does that take into account the estimated full taxing authority at about 2.7 mil?
yes,
Yeah,
It
it
does,
incorporates the
okay.
3% growth.
Okay.
yes. So the big wins were, fund balance used to fund the building
Right?
and some IT, infrastructure asks.
Okay, good. The overall assessments for the county are up, what was Rich saying? Is it 15%
Did he say
or
15%?
It was 9 to
valuation?
17%, there was a range. and-
Right, there's a
Yeah.
range.
Was it 14 or 13? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
something like that. We were running anywhere from 9 to 40, but 40 was like Worley, which is very small. That has not been figured into the
No.
taxing authority at this point.
Not for new growth,
Last
no,
Not for
we're
new
using
growth.
last year's numbers, so
Yeah.
when we get his updated number, then we can calculate new growth.
You said an estimate in June, I think, and then.
Is that when it
the
comes? I was
final
just
numbers
gonna
in
ask you
Yeah.
that. June? Okay.
Yeah.
So that will likely go up.
It's an estimate again, but the final number typically is August.
Right, and the airport has cut back on its revenue, so when you talk to the airport,
Mhm.
you might wanna find out what those
What's going on
drivers are of
Right.
why that,
Sure.
because if he does get the new software, that's going to help him with his lease billing. I would assume that that would contribute to his overall revenue line,
Fair enough.
so, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so much. So, public comment? None. 10:22 a.m. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.